Hi, my name is Kristen Howe, and I will be introducing our topic of pro-use of antibiotics in livestock. In this PowerPoint, we will be discussing and mainly focusing on why antibiotic use in livestock is beneficial for the health of both animals and humans. Without the use of antibiotics could lead to potential negative impacts to the well-being of humans and animals. First and foremost, what exactly are antibiotics and which are used in livestock animals? Antibiotics are naturally occurring, semi-synthetic and synthetic compounds that can be taken orally, parenterally, which also means through injections, or topically. The purpose of antibiotics are used to prevent, control, and treat bacterial diseases and infections in both animals and humans, but also inhibit the growth of the harmful bacteria from spreading further in the body. An antibiotic's main job is to kill bacteria, and it only attacks bacteria and does not work on viruses such as the flu or cold. An example of an antibiotic that is used in both animals and humans is penicillin. For livestock, penicillin can be used to treat bacterial pneumonia that is caused by Pasteurella multicida in cattle and sheep.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe, and I will be going over the history of antibiotic use on livestock. It all started when penicillin was discovered and Nobel Prize winner Ernest Chain and Howard Florey delivered penicillin as a medicine to the world in 1945. With the new discovery and the medicinal use, people were living longer and life expectancy went up. As a result, there was a population boom. This created the problem on how to feed that many people. In the 1950s, it was discovered that in low dosage of antibiotics created healthier livestock that lived longer and grew faster. That meant more protein for people at a cheaper price, and people were happy. In 1951, the Food and Drug Administration, otherwise known as the FDA, approves the first antibiotic use for animal feed and result of the studies. But in 1969, the UK government committee stated that antibiotic in feed could lead to antibiotic resistance in humans. After this, people started pressuring for antibiotic-free food, not knowing the benefits it had if used correctly. January 1st, 2017, the FDA made it a requirement that any antibiotic be prescribed by a California licensed vet for all medically important antibiotics in California livestock.
So why are animals given antibiotics in the first place? With the responsible use of antibiotics is the ethical thing to do in sustaining an animal's overall good health. Also, veterinarians and farmers rely upon the use of antibiotics to protect animal welfare. In farms where it is prone to overcrowding, it can be used for disease prevention and treatment and also aids in warding off potential infections due to unsanitary conditions. The pros of using antibiotics can help in sustaining an animal's overall well-being. For more than 40 years, antibiotics have been used to treat, control, and prevent diseases in animals. It helps in reducing bacteria in food supply and allows farmers to produce food more efficiently. Without antibiotics can increase foodborne illnesses. Some foodborne illnesses include Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria, which are all bacterial infections that can be transferred from livestock animals.
Hi, this is Nicole Eleda, and I'll be introducing the different applications of antibiotics and the pros. There are 3 different applications of antibiotic use in livestock, which are therapeutic, prophylactic, and subtherapeutic. Therapeutic use, it is used to treat clinically ill animals that can only be treated with antibiotics. The second use would be prophylactic. This is used to prevent infections using antibiotics. Third is the subtherapeutic use. It is used for specific health problems and improves animal performance. 16% of all lactating dairy cows in the U.S. receive antibiotic therapy for clinical mastitis each year. Nearly all dairy cows receive intramammary infusions of prophylactic doses of antibiotics following each lactation to prevent and control future mastitis, which is the inflammation of the mammary gland and udder tissue. 15% of beef calves that are in feedlots receive antibiotics for the treatment of clinical respiratory disease. Therapeutic antibiotic doses are given to 10% of healthy calves to reduce outbreaks of respiratory disease. Approximately 88% of swine in the U.S. receive antibiotics in their feed for disease prevention.
So which animals are given antibiotics? Antibiotics are mainly used in farm animals such as cattle, poultry, and swine. Baytril, an antibiotic used in chickens and poultry, are used to protect them from the E. coli bacterial infection. Cattle are given antibiotics to help those that are sick and also relieve the pain and stress associated with the sickness. And lastly, pigs are given antibiotics to prevent infections due to a crowded space and boost animal growth.
When people talk about antibiotic resistance, they are talking about a bacteria that has evolved and no longer killed as easily with antibiotics. Antibiotic residue differs from antibiotic resistance and are the molecules that stay on the meat from the animal that has been treated with antibiotics. There are many precautions taken to ensure meat is safe for consumption. Withdrawal periods and routine testing of meat by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and food companies. Does antibiotic use in farm animals affect human health? Misconception of antibiotic resistance in humans. There is no relation that antibiotics use on farm animals is linked to antibiotic resistance in humans. A case study taken of macrolides concluded that there is 1 in 3 billion chance that treatment failure due to antibiotic resistance is linked to animal antibiotics. You are more likely to die from an animal bite than from treatment failure related to antibiotic use in farm animals. Center of Disease Control explains that the most concerning public health threats have no relation to farm animals. On the CDC list of urgent threats, only 2 out of 18 involved bacteria correlated with farm animals. Some current event topics would be antibiotic-free labels and antibiotic resistance bacteria. The question is if meat that is labeled antibiotic-free really healthier than meat that has in one point had been given antibiotics. Antibiotics can only be used in animals that are sick, therefore preventing consumers eating meat from a sick animal. It makes it so that only meat from healthy animals are consumed. The FDA also requires that animals be taken off any type of drugs for a period of time before they re-enter the food line. That means that the antibiotics are long gone from the animal system before people eat it. There has yet to be any scientific evidence that antibiotic-free meat is healthier meat. It is also argued that antibiotic resistance does not come from antibiotic use in animals, but from antibiotic resistance comes from the overprescription of drugs to human patients who do not need them.
Ethical aspects. There are 18 antibiotic drug classes approved by the FDA that are used in food-producing animals. Some include penicillin and tetracyclines. Shared class antibiotics can be used in both humans and animals. Common classes of antibiotics used in animals are rarely ever used in humans. The FDA fully examines the drug's effectiveness, but also confirms the animals treated with antibiotics are safe for human consumption. By law, animals given an antibiotic cannot be processed until the withdrawal period ends. The rule of limited use of antibiotics in farm animals took place in January 2017. The veterinarian's oath includes protection of animal health and welfare and prevention of animal suffering and promotion of public health. So what happens if we stop using these antibiotics? Banning the use of antibiotics can lead to negative impacts. It risks the health and well-being of the animals. It could potentially harm the animal's immune system, affects food production, and disrupts healthy food supply. Risks human health by increasing the chances of spreading foodborne illnesses.
In conclusion, we feel that with the proper use of antibiotics on livestock is the ethical thing to do in prolonging the animal's health and lifespan. Antibiotics that are used in animals are only allowed to be used for medical purposes, such as if they are sick and to prevent them from spreading disease. Such diseases can affect their respiratory system, their mammary glands, and other tissues. By law, they are not allowed to be used for the purposes of enhancing their growth. With the proper precautions, there isn't a threat to humans when consuming meat from an animal that has antibiotics used on them. We have come to see that antibiotics used on livestock animals isn't as bad as how we viewed it before. Researching more about the pro-use has given us a new perspective and shown us the real reasons and facts on why animals are given antibiotics in the first place.
Hi, this is Nicole again, and we would now like to talk about how our views on animals given antibiotics have changed. At first, I thought all animals were given antibiotics just to get bigger and have more meat on them. I didn't know that they stopped giving them to animals and that the FDA requires them to do so. They have to wait until they are safe for human consumption before entering them onto the food line. I've always connected antibiotics with hormones that were bad for you. I now know that animals are only given antibiotics for health reasons. We want animals to be given antibiotics so they're healthy enough for all of us to consume. If they were to be untreated, more animals are at risk of getting diseases. If this were to happen, it would have a ripple effect. We would then not be able to eat as much meat as we do now because there would be less of it. Another thing that could possibly happen is that they will raise the price of meat. Doing this will affect who buys it, and some may not be able to afford it. Therefore, not get enough iron and other things in their bodies that comes from the animals we eat. I think the use of antibiotics in animals is now a good choice, not only for the animal's sake, but for human sake.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe Batalla, and I will be sharing my reflection on this topic and antibiotic use on animals. So I'm not an ag major, and I hadn't really been interested in the topic prior to this project. I would see labels on things, I wouldn't think much of it. So when our group chose this topic, I knew absolutely nothing except from what I heard from PETA, and I feel like PETA can sometimes distort the truth a little bit, so I didn't know. I didn't know there was regulations put in place to make it safe for human consumption. I kind of just figured they gave antibiotics to all of them and just put them on the feedlot, and I think that's what a lot of people in our society think, because that's all what we're told. I didn't know that they weren't allowed to be used as growth enhancers, and I honestly thought that that was mainly what they were used for. I didn't know that it was only used for medical purposes, and it had to be prescribed by a licensed vet, and there is a whole process to the thing. That way it would make it safer for humans. I think people really need to start doing research before they believe everything they hear, and really look into the laws and regulations before they make it automatically bad when it's proven to be healthier for the animals and the animals we eat.
Hi, this is Kristen again, and for me, antibiotic use on livestock wasn't a subject that I really thought about. But I'll admit that I was definitely one of those people that thought antibiotics used on animals was bad, and I didn't really think about the medical purposes behind it or bothered to research more about it. I was being naive and bought into all the negative news on why antibiotics were actually bad for the animals and were only used to enhance growth for human consumption. But what this project has helped me see is that after researching and learning more about the topic, it has changed my perspective entirely. I've learned that antibiotics are used mainly for the sake of the animal's health, but also our health as well. Reflecting back, I didn't think upon what was ethically and morally right for the animals. Now I see that animals are given antibiotics because without it, many animals will suffer from pain of inflammatory glands along with other things and diseases that may cause them to die. With more knowledge on the subject, I now see that antibiotics are actually a good thing for both our health and the animal's health. Okay, thank you for watching our video. Like and subscribe. Just kidding. We had a fun time in your class, even though we didn't see you as much. But it was very knowledgeable. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.